Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order. And do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Programming, Mr. Cameron.
Well, the first thing we wanted to talk about on the agenda was the impact of COVID-19 on our workflow and staffing. Take staffing first. We're actually suffering a loss of some of our staff. One of our videographers remains unvaccinated for medical reasons, not political reasons. So he is reticent to, come into town hall. We do have some new staffers we're bringing on for training from NCC, at least two, maybe three new students, because I think we need to build up bench strength. We've been adding go-to-meeting facilitation to the roster of duties for videographers to help out with RTM meetings and land use board go-to-meeting meetings. And that has it's been working out okay. I mean, some of them have been better at it than others. But that's meant that we have a night like tonight, we have 6 meetings going on simultaneously, 6 meetings, so many meetings. And it's kind of hard to staff all of that. Fortunately, a lot of the meetings that we're covering are on GoToMeeting or on Zoom, like the Board of Selectmen going over the budget right now. So workflow has been, remarkably easy because if it's a virtual meeting or GoToMeeting or a Zoom meeting, I've got everybody well trained just to send me the download link. I download it, clean it up, gavel to gavel, throw in some lower thirds, upload it to Vimeo, put it on on the Castus. I mean, I can turn a show around in about 15 minutes now with that editing process. So, I'm just hoping that we can, get over Omicron and get back to holding more in-person meetings. We can talk about the challenges of hybrid meetings in a moment when we get down to technology. But happy to answer any questions on the first part about staffing if anyone has them.
It's terrific that you found the outlet of NCC and also from last year giving them the contest to do video. It gives them some real world experience.
Yeah. Hold me, I'm just ending up the Board of Selectmen meeting has just ended, so we're off the air with that now. Okay, sorry. Yeah, the kids from NCC are really extraordinary. I mean, they're very hardworking. For the most part, they show up on time. We have one person who actually commutes from Bridgeport, takes the train, and then walks from the train station down to town hall. And if things aren't going well with Metro North, that's problematic. So I'm looking for people that have access to a car or they're a little closer to home. One of the students at NCC actually lives in Darien, so I'm anxious to meet him. So moving on to the quarterly report, I sent everybody a copy of the fourth quarter report that we shared with the Board of Selectmen. And a couple of highlights in that I could share with you. We have revived, and this is actually newer than fourth quarter, we've revived the series called Community Matters, which is interviews that I do with local nonprofits and non-government organizations. And I've been doing those by Zoom and doing post-production on them, and they've turned out really well. I mean, better than what we used to do, having the two of us sit in room 206 and try to show, 2 or 3 slides. They've been well received by the people who I interviewed, and they've been promoting it to all of their members and their websites, their social media. So I think it's drawing some new eyeballs to TV79 for the rest of our work. As I said, the load of meetings continues. I mean, we had, I think it was either last week or the week before, we had 19 meetings in 1 week. 19 meetings in 1 week. And most of those on 3 nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's an occasional Thursday, maybe a rare Friday meeting. but the number of meetings is not let up at all. I'm being very conscious at trying to turn meetings around, especially important meetings that have a lot of interest, ASAP. So like last night's Board of Selectmen meeting, when the budget was first presented by the town administrator, I got that turned around and on Vimeo within an hour. And it's been, in rotation today as well too. We're carrying the review of the budget department by department live. That's what just ended a second or so ago. Started at 5:30. The first of 3 or 4 nights of that review. Not exactly compelling television because it's all just screenshots of OpenGov at a font so small nobody can read it. But if you're listening to it, I mean, the narration that's being given and the explanation that's been given for each department, I think is useful. So, you put it on in the background as you're preparing dinner and hope your kids don't fall asleep at the table listening to these boring discussions. But I'll get that turned around as soon as I can as well too.
There's a lot.
We have had
in those budget. I listened to up till 7:15 because I had to listen to planning and zoning, and there's a lot of interesting information.
Yes, there is
about the character of the town and the decisions that Kate has to make about what gets added and what not, particularly in this year when the Board of Education is looking for a big jump.
Yeah, and I think Kate Bush, who's the town administrator who puts this budget together, and she said she's been doing it for over 20 years in Darien. I mean, she makes the point that the budget really drives policy. You can say you want to be doing more of X, Y, and Z, but if you don't fund it, it's not going to get done. So she's, I think, working very hard, given the fact that most of the Board of Selectmen are new to those jobs. She's working very hard at explaining to them what they need to do in terms of asking questions and advocating for various points of view. So that continues the rest of this week as well too. One other programming thing we did, thanks to Cecil, was we discovered we could actually be live streaming on Twitter. I'm not sure how many people watch us on Twitter, but we're there in the hours that we live stream through Boxcast, which is 4:30 to I think 11:30, 7 days a week in the evening hours. And one other metric which I think is very encouraging, I pointed out to the Board of Selectmen when I did the presentation. We don't have a lot of numbers about our viewership. We can look at Vimeo analytics, but the program guide that I put out each week on Friday afternoon goes out to 1,126 opt-in subscribers. And it used to be we had about a 33% open rate, which meant that 2/3 of the people that received it never even looked at it. Well, the open rate in the past couple of weeks has gone up to 57%. So at least they're opening the program guide, they're looking at it. Maybe not to, click through and watch a particular meeting. I think they're looking at it because I do sometimes a better job than the town's web calendar at predicting what's coming up in the week ahead, with links to the agendas as well too. So I take that as a good sign of audience engagement, and hopefully it's going to match with viewership as well too. Although we have no Nielsen ratings, obviously.
Hey Jim.
So, yes.
If I could interrupt, one additional thing about the program guide, we're getting a steady trickle of signups from it through the website.
Yeah, there's a link on the program guide, how to subscribe to. There's actually both ways on the website. There's a link to sign up for the program guide, and I think that's we're getting reports every time somebody signs up new for that. We're also getting metrics on every time somebody looks at a Vimeo meeting as well too. So they're out there, and I think they're watching and they're engaged. And it's budget season, so if people don't care about anything other than, their pocketbooks, I think they'll be following the whole budget making process, which, is a long, involved process. It's going to take, many, many weeks. I don't think the RTM has its final vote until early May. So that'll be good for our audience as well, too.
Jim, with the meeting schedule, what you described the last 3 weeks, if we weren't in a COVID era and everybody was in town hall, is our savior there are only so many meeting rooms in town hall that could we have physically covered as many meetings as there were without so many of them being done like this on Zoom, where an individual is doing it and not one of your videographers?
Right. I don't think we would be able to cover 19 meetings in 1 week were it not for virtual meetings right now. We just wouldn't. We don't have the staff. We don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Well, we don't even have the equipment. You can only cover
well,
two meetings at one time if you're going from the booth.
Yeah, but I mean, even with the Portacam, and we have 2 or 3 Portacams, but we haven't had a meeting in the Mather Center in the old cafeteria or the new cafeteria down there since pre-COVID days. Police department, they've been trying to meet. The police commission has been trying to meet at headquarters in person, but they've gone back to virtual. But if the medical predictions of Omicron peaking and dissipating quickly are true, I think people are going to be anxious to try to come back and hold more meetings in person as well too.
Which leads
happy to answer any other questions. Oh, here we go, technology.
Which leads to the hybrids.
Hybrid meeting. So I'll preface this by saying that the discussion that Mike wants to have is not a TV79 issue. It's a town IT issue.
Oh, no, I just want to know how 206 is coming about getting.
Oh, well,
I'll bring people up to date on the RTM part of it. That's the IT part of it.
So we used some Area 9 grant money to install 2 large screen monitors in room 206. So that room is finally up to state-of-the-art, 1990s technology. So you can show PowerPoint in there. And the nice thing about, as she did last night, Kate Bush, the town administrator, was going through her PowerPoint presentation. That automatically fed into the booth. So we don't have to worry about trying to synchronize with a thumb drive or anything else like that. So anything that's on those screens being projected by a guest speaker will appear in our booth. And that'll be great when we get back to having planning and zoning meetings and all those developers come in, because it's going to look a whole lot better for them to be able to just plug an HDMI laptop output into that monitor than having to use that kludgy old projector and that broken down screen that looks like it was a hand-me-down from Middlesex School. So that's working. The problem is that we still do not have the technology in place to be able to do a true hybrid meeting. In other words, to have some people in the room, some people joining by Zoom, go to meeting, and being able to each see and hear each other. God knows we've tried. And I think short of the Board of Education, which has done it extremely well at no small cost, I might add, it's a very difficult procedure to do. And I'm not sure how we're ever going to quite achieve it. And Mike can certainly talk about his experience trying to do the same thing with at the Darien Community Center, or DAC.
Yeah, because
DCA.
It's really an audio problem. It's a really an IT audio problem of getting feedback in the room with a public address system. 206 has the advantage that it doesn't have a public address system, but the RTM has formed a technology committee to look at the options. And essentially the town has to make a decision as COVID winds down. I went to the Greenwich RTM meeting a week ago last Tuesday, which incidentally I didn't know was the 4th largest legislative body in the United States. After the Congress and 2 state legislatures, the 225 members of Greenwich is the 4th largest legislative body in the United States. But anyway, they have a hybrid solution that works. But the town has to decide if they think this is a technology going forward that they're going to want to incorporate into meetings or events in the auditorium, and to spend the money to do it. Otherwise, we might as well wait until this is over and people can come back in person to spend the money to create, a hybrid solution.
Yeah, and I think that there's an issue of people attending remotely out of convenience as opposed to necessity. That they've gone through 2 years of attending RTM meetings, sitting in their living room, lying on their couch. I don't know what they've been doing, but maybe they don't want to go to the town hall auditorium to participate in person. That's a whole other issue, and I don't want to. I have a personal point of view on all that, but I mean, the bottom line is that TV79 will do whatever it can to carry those meetings, whether they are live or hybrid or virtual only. I mean, that's our mandate. But the technology and the budget that's associated with making especially hybrid happen is a town IT issue. It's not a TV79 issue. So there've been attempts, for example, in room 119, there was a meeting that was in there that the chair wanted to do hybrid, and she was running around like a chicken with her head cut off at the last minute, trying to make it work and turning to my camera operator saying, help me, help me. And I told my camera operator specifically, not your job. It's not your job to try and rescue somebody who doesn't understand how to use that technology. We're there to cover the meeting, not to facilitate the technology to make it happen. And she vows she will never hold a hybrid meeting again. And it's, for some of these meetings, it just doesn't make sense to try to have people joining on a laptop, watching somebody in the room make a presentation with charts and graphs that you can barely see. And that's why you should be there in person. That's why you were elected.
I think it's April 20th that the governor's executive order expires. I saw he sought to extend 12 executive orders yesterday in the new home of Jim Cameron's column, the Connecticut Mirror. But I didn't see anything about are hybrid meetings still going to be permitted for voting? And I didn't hear any scuttlebutt, but some decision has to be made prior to April 20th about whether or not hybrid meetings are going to continue to be allowed, and we'll see.
Any questions on technology, folks?
Budget.
Well, our budget was produced or introduced.
Jim, one thing that you forgot, the experiment that you're trying to do with timestamps with the videographers. That's important.
Yeah. Given the length of some of these meetings and the complexity of the agendas, take P&Z, for example, which can run to 3 hours. Planning and Zoning Commission has been very good about sending us a time-stamped agenda after the meeting so that we can paste that into the description box on Vimeo, so that somebody who wants to look at one particular application in front of P&Z doesn't have to wade through 3 hours of meeting to find it. P&Z just jots a little note down on their own agenda and then sends it to us the next day saying, item XYZ started at 26 minutes into the meeting. And we paste that in, and you can click on that and go right to that part of the particular meeting.
And Board of Finance.
Board of Finance has been good about doing that. Yeah, they have. They've been very good about doing it. We've asked the others to do it. They don't do it. So what we're experimenting with now is getting my videographers, whether they're doing a live shoot in the booth or they're facilitating a go-to-meeting meeting, to follow along on the agenda the same way. And at the end of the meeting, just shoot me a note saying when each agenda item showed up with the number of minutes in from the start of the meeting. And I've been pasting those in the descriptions as well too. I think we'll keep doing that. I mean, it's not a big deal for them on a 6-item meeting, although it may run 3 hours, just to keep track of that. And we'll see if that helps facilitate people and make it easier for them to find things in longer meetings.
I want to acknowledge our secretary, Dennis, who has added timestamps to the minutes of this meeting since he started taking minutes.
It helps that we talk about them every time. So
Thank you, Dennis.
good reminder.
Budget. So the budget process is an interesting one, and I was explaining this to the RTM committee on which I served last night, Public Health and Safety, as we were listening to the town health director talk about what he asked for in terms of budget and what he's likely to get. So back in November, the town started putting together budget requests from various departments, and they came to us and they gave us a form. I sent you a copy of this. Here's what your budget was last year, and how much do you want this year? So I filled it out and sent it in to the town administrator, and it wasn't until tonight that I found out that she actually put through what I've requested. So that's great. I mean, I saw the first part of the meeting, Mike saw later. The first part of the meeting, she said something like, yeah, and here's the TV79 light item. We basically put in the number they said they need to pay for camera operators. And then later on, was there a question, or did somebody comment that the budget had gone up for TV79, Mike?
She brought it up. She says there's a big increase, and she says, for the life of me, I can't remember what it was for.
Okay. Well, there's an explanation. Most of our capital expense, 99% of our capital expense, is paid for by grants from Area 9 Cable Council. The town gives us money to pay for videographers, and maybe I think we got $1,000 last year for operating supplies. We used to buy spindles of DVDs and sleeves and all kinds of stuff. Well, when COVID hit, we did not spend the money that we had been allocated and budgeted to pay for camera operators, because our expense of running those meetings went down considerably. So last year, I asked for less money than the year before, knowing that we hadn't spent the money that we had the year before. This year, however, my budget request went from $19,500 to $23,000 because of the extra cost that's associated with us being facilitators of these go-to-meeting meetings. We're using our videographers to handle that operation. We had initially been paying them the same we pay them to do video shoots, which is $30 an hour with a 2-hour minimum. So when I would send out the assignment list on Friday saying, here are all the meetings that we want to cover next week, these are go-to-meeting, these are live video shoots, everybody went to the go-to-meeting. I mean, because that meant they could sit at home in their underwear and be making money just, with a few clicks of the mouse. So that incentive went away. We've reduced the cost or the pay schedule for the facilitation of go-to-meeting meetings to $25 an hour with a 1-hour minimum. And, water has sought its own level, and people are, still, I need people to do the video shoots. I need that very much more than I need people to do the facilitation of the go-to-meetings. But given that we're doing more go-to-meeting and less video shoots right now, I asked for a $3,500 increase in camera operators. We cut our operating supplies down to almost nothing, from $500 to $150. But we increased our software maintenance and support line item to $2,500 because Cecil, having built a beautiful website for us, there are costs involved with the software that he uses to maintain that, for the storage, for the connectivity, etc. And that's not a line item that we'd had previously. So the town finance director said, let's create a new line item, software maintenance and support. So that's $2,500. So all told, our budget request went from $20,500 to $25,000, which seems like a sizable increase. It is, but it's chump change. It's lunch money compared to, most of the other line items in the budget. I think the town realizes they're getting tremendous value for their dollar. Happy to answer any budget questions.
It's going to be interesting to see when things get back to normal, or whatever that is.
We also get some money from Area 9 to pay for camera operators. So if we suddenly find ourselves, running through our budget for camera operators, we have a little extra money set aside for a rainy day fund like that. So we're not going to run out of dough.
Well, the people I talked to in Greenwich at the RTM meeting completely are convinced that the governor is going to institutionalize hybrid meetings for meetings where you can vote and be absent. So I think eventually we're going to have to build a hybrid capability, if the governor institutionalizes it, like people in Greenwich, I think he will.
Well, we do have this new IT steering committee that's being formed by the town. We appointed a member from RTM last night, and they've got a lot on their plate that they've got to look at, because I don't think IT has been taken seriously by the town. This is my personal opinion. I don't think IT has been taken seriously by the town for the last decade. We've been sharing a person with the Board of Education to maintain all the computers and servers in town hall. And, all these other departments are clamoring now for, online payment systems, on different platforms, probably incompatible with each other. 3 different departments requested money to buy drones in the budget last night. I think the police department won that one, and they have to loan it to share it with anyone else that wants to use it.
They have to share it. Yeah.
Yeah. As well they should. We don't need 3 drones. Dave and I could tell you the story about Norwalk Community College and its drone. They came looking for a grant from Area 9 Cable Council. What was it, 10 years ago, Dave?
About
something like that. Yeah, they came and they asked money for a drone, and we said, "What the hell are you going to do with a drone? The money you're spending on capital equipment is supposed to be for programming, not for teaching, not for training, for programming. You're going to start doing a drone show or something?" And they said, "Well, okay, we gave them the money for the drone, but the deal was that they had to share the drone with any other town that wanted to use it. So if we wanted to get some drone shots at Darien, we would call up this guy, the professor, and he'd come over with his drone and he'd shoot some video for us." Well, he went on sabbatical about 6 months later, and the drone disappeared.
Yeah.
The drone's never been seen since.
That was a beautiful video he did of Darien, though.
Yeah.
He did-
Well, no, that wasn't him. That was another
that wasn't him.
photographer. Yeah, the one that Cecil put together. Yeah. So drones are like a dime a dozen. 10 years ago, this drone cost, I don't know, a couple grand or something. It's pretty expensive stuff. So
Who
I
wanted
can't
the
quite
drone-
argue that
who
we
wanted
need
the
a
drone
drone.
other than the police, Public Works, and who else? What? Do you remember?
Emergency management,
Yeah,
police department,
and probably Public
and
Works.
I forget which. Watch the meeting last night. It's on
will.
Vimeo. You can see it. Yeah.
I had the RTM meeting.
I know. I was trying to do both at the same time.
Hey, if I can
Um,
insert something, Jim,
Please do.
whether the governor acts directly on the subject of combined meetings, of hybrid meetings, they're a done deal. They're going to happen without question. Too many people have gotten too used to doing remote meetings for it to ever go away now.
Yep.
My
I
opinion.
think you're right. I think you're right.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, and that, that raises the whole issue of, I think our former first select woman made the point that, do you really want to have somebody on the RTM attending meetings from their home in Florida 6 months out of the year? Are they really representing their constituents? You know, I can see if you're sick or it's the weather's bad but if you just want to sit at home and be drinking beer all night, trying to do your duty as an elected official, don't get me started. That's a whole other issue, way outside of TV79's purview.
In Greenwich, there are 225 elected RTM members. They were electing a new RTM moderator for the first time in 30 years at this meeting. The guy, the
First woman too.
Yeah, and who was behind the technology to do the hybrid, but there weren't 12 RTM members in attendance.
Wow.
Out of 225, there weren't 12 in attendance in a Central Junior High School auditorium with 400 seats.
And they were using a private company that specializes in putting together hybrid meetings. Is that true? You were telling me?
No, they just found a guy who figured out how to do it.
Hmm.
They didn't.
Send him our way.
Yeah, he is gonna. If we put out an RFP, he will bid on the RFP.
Good.
Any new business? The community matters is I think a big thing too of in terms of positioning from a government channel to a town channel. And it really does, if you watch the person to person, I haven't watched the new one with Janet yet that you did yesterday or the other day.
Yeah.
But that's part of the community too, that people need to see. And I like that, you know, it's up on the website too. There's another one that you posted on there was the Darien Men's Association with
Greg Flaherty.
Greg Flaherty.
Yeah.
That
I've done 4 so far. It was like At Home in Darien, Person to Person, Community Fund, and Norwalk Community College Foundation. I've got Post 53 coming up, Darien Foundation, which I'm sure was anxious to participate, but I think it's going to start developing a momentum of its own. I'm starting to get people kind of nibbling around the edges saying, how do I get to be on the program? So I'm trying to do about 1 a week, and you know, it beats running another old library video as well too.
And then next year, you haven't done the cycle of what does the public works director do? What does the board of assessors
Inside town hall?
Inside town hall, and there's been a lot of, you know, I was surprised how many retirements. You know, there've been a lot of retirements, not among the time will come up where it's appropriate for that to because that's been 5 years.
Oh yeah, some of those are even older than that. I mean, I have interviews with Donna Rajewski when she was town clerk. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We also did live coverage of the COVID test kit mask giveaway. Well, not live coverage. We taped coverage of the COVID mask and test kit giveaway at the high school. John Amarillo shot that, and we got that up that afternoon. That was a Saturday, a couple of weeks ago as well too. Did some man on the street, you know, people in their cars, got their permission before we started, putting them on air, and they were all enthusiastic. They said, "Great that the town's doing this. Should have done it sooner. Let's keep it up." Blah blah blah. But you know, they were sitting in line, not very long lines. They were in very short, expeditious, well-handled lines to get free test kits. So why would they complain?
And if there was one lead from the RTM meeting last night, it was the state is putting in a free COVID testing center in the parking lot at St. John's Church. So you can go and get tested for free.
Right.
Not have to pay and then hope that the insurance will pay for it, but that the state will do it for free at St. John's.
That's right.
Starting in the next couple of weeks.
And not just for Darien residents. So
any new business? Any other thoughts, ideas? Well, so our next meeting is in April, right after Jim's presentation to the department heads. So he only has to do one programming presentation, but it's going to be a very interesting budget cycle And Darien TV79 is going to be right in the middle of it, both on the town side and on the Board of Education side.
Well, watch for the February issue of what is one? There's I forget what the name of the magazine is. There's a magazine about Darien that it's all about Darien. It's got idyllic looking couples and families on the cover. It's like Darien Lifestyle or something.
They do a good
Neighbors or
job.
something.
Yeah. Well, they're doing a story about TV79 in the February issue. So as soon as it comes out, I'll send you a link.
Oh, good.
You'll never guess who wrote it.
Yeah. So how many have had COVID? Well, you did, Cecil, didn't you?
No, my wife did.
Your wife did.
Everybody in the family did except me.
Oh,
But I had gotten my back. This was way in last year, early January last year. And I had gotten my first vaccination. So
Good
I
for
think that
you.
saved me.
yeah. Well, all right. So I think it's, I can't remember what the date is. It's like April 19th or April 26th, one of those 2 days. So, and Carrie, do you have a return? What's the acronym? Everybody has that. Do you have an RTO?
Return to office. It was supposed to be last week and it got obviously postponed. So we don't have a new date yet.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody. They said, "Well, my RTO. What's RTO? Return to office."
Return to
God,
office.
that's
Yeah.
a COVID acronym that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in this week for a couple of days, and it's very limiting on what things that you can do. I mean, you test every morning as soon as you get there. Only a few people allowed in the control room at a time. So it's locked down pretty well.
Yeah, it's strange. Well, hopefully it'll be well, it's going to be with us forever, but this part will be in the rear window by April. So thank you all for coming. I told you it would be short, and if you've got any ideas, thoughts, send them to Jim.
Motion to adjourn.
Stacy, motion to adjourn. Second, Cecil.
Second.
Or you
No,
can't.
I'm not a
you're
member.
not a member. Robert. All in favor?
To adjourn.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks
See you
all.
later.
Thanks, Mike. Jim, bye-bye.
See ya.
Take care.
Dennis, Carrie.
So long, Dave.